said they have huge number of containers, reefer containers for domestic supply. I don't know whether he's here in the room. So, can you comment if you don't mind?
Hello. Good evening, sir. This is Saurabh Roy. I'm heading the international business development for the entire Transal Group. Transal Group owns the Shreya Shipping, which is the India's largest private ship owning company, and we are a kind of a pioneer of coastal shipping in India. Apart from owning our own vessels, we also own around 40,000 plus containers, and this includes around 2,500 plus reefer containers. So the advantage, or I would say a kind of a USP of our group has been to provide a kind of a complete end-to-end multimodal domestic solution. Maybe we are the only player in India who is doing a kind of a combination of the coastal shipping along with the road transportation and the last mile connectivity. And apart from that, sir, it is only our containers where we are going to all the customers and providing them a kind of a solution like why you are only interested in having a kind of an entire cold chain infrastructure. Now, shipping line like us or MSC or many other shipping lines, they always face a kind of a lot of problems of empty repositioning of the containers. So what we are offering to the customers that you can use these reefer containers as a kind of a portable cold chain storage. Wherever you want to use it, you can have that. Whenever you want to use it, you can have it. And you only pay for what kind of a time you use. The plug-in and extra, there are certain kind of a costing and a technicalities which we are the kind of a players are ready to accept that. So I want to understand like there has been kind of a lot of discussions like we want to adopt this standardization process. But there are a lot of players, especially the logistics players, who are trying to pitch to a lot of pharmaceutical companies, this kind of innovative. Now we talk about the safety. In a country like India, when we do a domestic distribution by a normal road, transportation or a truck, coastal shipping is considered to be a kind of a cheaper mode of transportation also, as well as a safer mode of transportation. And containers, we all use it for an EXIM shipment. So why not there has been a kind of a focus from the pharmaceutical to use the same containers for a domestic distribution? There is a kind of a solution which is available with the kind of a logistics company, but it also depends upon how the pharmaceutical companies are ready to accept that kind of a solution.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback and comments. I think it's important for everybody to know that on one side, there's a perception that there is a lack of containers. I don't know whether you can fulfill the entire nation's demand. But on the other side, there are people who are also building containers for domestic use. And I'm sure you could convert some of those non-reefer containers to reefer containers if the demand exists. I think we are moving in the right direction, but still far from the target. So thanks for your feedback from the audience. I'd like to move on to I think you have one more comment from Mr. Reddy.
See, getting the containers availability, it's a lot of improvement is there. My experience 20 years back, to export to Germany, we used to struggle for the 40 days to get the container. Nowadays, per day, I am executing the shipments, 12 containers per day. So availability, getting from the Mumbai also, second day we are getting in Hyderabad. That is the improvement.
So things have really improved?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'd like to move on to Manoj. I know you've been sitting patiently. And Manoj is from Flyjack Forwarding. And I'd like to ask you to comment a little different aspect. We talk about moving products from R&D to commercial. Also, when it goes overseas or we import material, what could be done, say, a kind of a green channel, whether you can use AEO, CTPAD, GDP, so that the product reaches the customer in a quicker time through the logistics chain?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I've been waiting patiently for the last 40 minutes, but fine. Basically, the questions a lot of customers ask us whether you are pharma compliant. So there is a very broad aspects of pharma compliance as a logistics service provider. So initially when we were saying, okay, we have a warehouse where you can put your goods there if the airline misses or the shipping line misses the vessel, but they were like, then the quality used to come in between saying, no, I can't use any third-party warehouse. It has to be GDP compliant. It has to be compliant with my own quality controls. So you can't use any other warehouse. You have to keep it either on the truck, waiting for it to catch the next vessel or the next booking with the carrier. So there's a lot of the expenses to hold the cargo, keep the container or the reefer container keeping on the generators. So as a forwarder, as a logistic service provider, we have understood this particular sensitivity of the pharma company, and we've taken one step ahead, trying and getting ourselves GDP compliant. So wherever it's possible, if there is this kind of a shutdown situation, where we can use a GDP compliant warehouse, and the quality, the QA guys also will not take any objection to keep their product into a GDP warehouse. So GDP is one thing most of the logistic service provider are trying to get into their system, so that they can have a seamless flow of goods. Because if you remember a few cases in the past, the FDA have revoked licenses of many other, US FDA have revoked licenses of many other pharmaceutical companies just because the entire supply chain was not compliant. And the main pain point was of the local, the warehouses which they were owning. Those were not compliant. That's why there has been a lot of revocation of the US FDA have come heavily on our Indian pharmaceutical companies. So going ahead, that is one particular part which we are sensitive about, and we have taken those steps in terms of getting ourselves GDP compliant. The next step is the EU certification. EU certification also facilitates most of the shippers and the consignees to have a green channel kind of a movement from one customs to other customs, because AEO is a customs activity. The certification is given by the Customs of India, and this has been recognized by the European Customs. So it's a World Customs organization who has given this certification, and it's a very, very important tool for us to give a green channel facility, because if any bill of entry with the EU certified bill of entry goes to any customs officer, it goes as smoothly as when you go from the airport, when you do the immigration from a green channel. So it's a similar way to get into the AEO. So any cargo which is life-saving, or any shipment that needs to be really cleared in record time, AEO helps us in moving through the processes very fast. And there are other facilities, other advantages of being an AEO certified. And in fact, we have gone one step ahead in creating a consultancy vertical for developing our customers and our vendors to be AEO certified. So we are consulting to we've been consulting to the PSUs in India for AEO certification, because that's now one of the major aspects for handling their businesses also. And the next step on the from GDP is the CEIV, which my colleague and the fellow panelist Balasubramanian touched upon. Probably in the next couple of years, there will be a mandate from IATA. The airline colleagues might be aware of it, that there would be, unless and until we are CEIV certified, a freight forwarder cannot handle the pharmaceutical goods. So GDP is the first step towards CEIV. So once you have GDP process in place, you will be sufficing the local pharmaceutical companies, the local shippers requirement and their anxiety to give you the shipment, or to make you handle the shipment. And then next comes the CEIV. So CEIV gives you the entire gamut of supply chain. So you can handle any shipments from any part of the world if you are CEIV certified. So these are some of the steps which we are trying to take, give the industry the right solutions, so that they are in the right hands, because these trainings the GDP trainings and the CEIB trainings are really tough, and most of our handlers at the ground level are not even graduates, so making them train and understand the sensitivity of the product is very important. And so we are trying to take those efforts, and many of our colleagues, the other competitors are also trying to do the same. And so the entire supply chain is in the smooth manner we can take it up.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Manoj. I would like to just add upon what Manoj mentioned. I did bring up the topic of CIV right in my opening remarks. Many times, certain new developments in an industry will divide the industry vertically down. This GDP CIV is one topic. I've been fortunate to be in many, many parts of the world where pharma is either consumed or it's produced or it is transported between. You can see one set of people completely asserting themselves to say that GDP is the only best certification. Across the hall in the same country, in the same city, you can see other set of people to say, no. We are all in the airline supply chain. So for us, IATA CAV is the only thing. Very unfortunately, both of them are correct. So jury is out upon, so I'm not here to sort of produce a final judgment to say A is right or B is right. No, they've got their own requirements, their own peculiarities. Airline people probably feel more comfortable to do with CIV because it takes an airline supply chain completely into account and addresses each and every question in terms of its checklist. Again, you can't become a checklist Charlie. Ticking a few checklists doesn't mean your pharma is going to be safe. That's not a guarantee. You need to ensure that it is translated into work. That is another angle. Yes, I used to work with Emirates, as I told you all of you, and Julie is now continuing on that line in terms of the sales side of it. My colleague Bert is looking after the operation side of it. Yeah. So I pass the baton on to him because I started the whole GDP exercise for that. Because GDP was very comprehensive. See, again, you need to connect to the first topic I talked about. Pharma companies insisted transport companies must follow all their regulations fully. Then transport companies said, no, you need to ask us to follow only the transport-related aspects, not the entire aspects. So then, the GDP got developed. So GDP matured itself a bit, and then GDP, of course, had a lot of questions which were not related to airline. So the checklists were modified. There a lot of processes went through, and it has really matured, I would say. Unless I'm wrong on that, I think it has really matured a lot. IRC, of course, it was its own thing, and there are people to say, no, it has got a better connectivity with an airline way of thinking and transportation, and it recognizes more. So, that one. Coming to Manoj's point, yes, both of them require very good training. No doubt about it at all, because one of the biggest things, some other company also talked about, we are ISO certified. I used to be an ISO chief auditor. The worst part of all the certifications is, I think again my friend from Reliance touched upon that, every one of us will be very happy. We will raise a toast and have a fantastic champagne because we got a certificate. My dear friends, the job starts there, it doesn't end there. So for you to satisfy your customer and offer a correct service, you have just been told in a piece of paper that you are ready to do the job. That's all. So you don't now raise a toast. You raise a toast when your customer says, I'm happy, and in a sustained manner. So I think these things have to, ISO also, what does it say? You say what you're going to do and show me evidence that you have done that. So I will produce a product of grade number 9. I'll ensure sustainedly I will do that. So we need to get our thought process very correct in this. In pharma, the challenges are much more, whether you follow GDP or a CAV or both. By the way, many companies have got both. Are you aware of that? Many parts of the world, many companies, probably to keep a bit of a diplomatic thing with both, I don't know. So they've got both now. So this area is something which is still very, very nascent, in my opinion. It is not mature. Whether GDP does the job, whether ACAV does the job, whatever it is. Again, individual pharma companies, you are a better judge. They specifically insist, if you want to do business with me, I want this certification. Again, it is up to you. You are the customer. You've got a right to say. But professionalism demands that you say why you are insisting. Then as a logistics company, I will understand the logic behind your thinking and whether I will be able to meet your requirements. That's what is very, very, very important. So this IATA CAEV GDP, it goes on and on. Even today I read one article strongly giving both the viewpoints there. They were not able to come to L11 at all. It's going a bit like Brexit now.
Thank you. I think very well described and explained, and very aptly spoken that getting a certification is only the beginning of the journey. It's absolutely correct. I'd like to move on to, I think we have now a few more minutes, and I think I have a last question for the panelists, and this is part of sharing best practices or best experiences or some success stories. And I think we heard, at least I heard it before in the pre-panel discussion. It was a very interesting experience or case study by Dr. Sumedha, and I would request her to kindly, share this with all.
Right, and I'll answer the first part of your question first, very quickly. In my last, when I spoke last, I spoke about certain challenges that we as pharmaceutical manufacturers face, like FDA warnings or import licenses. What are the best practices that we do at our end? Let's say I want to launch my product in Q2 2019. What do we do? We have alternate API suppliers, so if there is a warning letter, we have an alternative supplier. We also have our own people, our own team quality people conduct due diligence on maybe the CROs or the API and quality. So we see to it that we spoke about GDP or whatever GMP, we spoke about Schedule M, everything is in place. From our side, we take all those precautions. Yet, of course, things can go wrong and we can get loads and loads of response from FDA where it is full of deficiencies. Now, these may be certain scientific deficiencies which are beyond our control sometimes. We do address those deficiencies and in course of time, we do get approvals. Yes, the launches could be delayed. Now, so this is risk mitigation from our side, what we do. I spoke about that. But now here I want to touch upon, I came across a case study which I really want to share. I thought it will be relevant to you all. Because here logistics and supply chain, you all here are very different from other supply chain, I would say. Now here in front of me I have something called Apparel Supply Chain Board. I have an apparel. We are talking about Pharma Connect. So what do? We may speak about business, we may speak about compensation claims and so on and so forth. Everyone here is for business and profits. I do agree that. But remember, we are here for life saving of lives. And that's what a really story which touched my heart. There's a company called Genentech, it's in the US. And this was a typical case where it was about a life-saving drug, cancer oncology drug. And the vice president of this company, he was very, very anxious on that day because he was expecting a letter from FDA. It could be either an approval of that particular drug or it could be a huge letter of deficiencies. This vice president, he came early, in the early hours of one wintry morning, he came into his office because he was just expecting an email. He was anxious. And on the other side of the US, on the West Coast, in California Cancer Center, there was a doctor and who had his patient on the bed who was in advanced stages of breast cancer with metastasis where all the treatments had failed. It was tamoxifen and Herceptin, every single treatment had failed and time was running out for this doctor. At that moment, 6:30 a.m., this vice president got an email from FDA that the medicine has been approved. So imagine how happy he was immediately. Now comes the supply chain into the picture. How do I get this medicine quickly where time is running out, patients are dying? This is just one patient, many patients. So the supply chain manager of this company, the lead of that, he had everything ready. He had several labels ready because FDA, sometimes it can even tell you to change a punctuation mark. FDA can tell you to add some safety lines, this and that, not to be taken, pregnant women, whatever, and so on and so forth. So how they had planned, the supply chain manager had planned number of labels, number of versions of the labels. Quickly in the facility in Midwest of USA, they packed this injection. This was again a cold chain, biological. Okay, and to manufacture this injection itself, it was taking 10 months to manufacture. But at risk, the manufacturer had manufactured it. 18,000 miles to get the raw materials to purify, to dehydrate and lyophilize the vial. One vial cost $8,000 plus. But they had kept it ready, they got this, and within 12 hours, this injection